What's going on, everybody? It's your boy DG. Here we are, back with another episode of Not For Granted with
Carly.
So, this episode we were wondering, this is a little touchy, right? Our childhood in this inner child wound and how it pertains to a marriage. The awareness of your inner child. A lot of people aren't aware of. I know I'm 40 for 39 years, maybe? I wasn't even aware of what what is an inner child? What is that?
Yeah.
And realizing how many of the wounds from a childhood, and not, when I say wounds, it doesn't have to be like you were grew up, you were an orphan or you had cigarettes put out on you for you to have wounds. We all have some type of emotional wounds, and then how that manifests itself within a relationship. And really, I've learned that your partner, whoever you're with, really is just they serve as the vessel to get you to the deepest, most affected wounds. Are you gonna say anything or no?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree with...
Can you think of your life and see where there's been, or how it's maybe showed itself? Like wounds or like...
I think kids, too, like marriage will bring it out, but also your kids.
Kids for sure.
Kind of will trigger something like, oh, wow, I never thought about that time when I was 7 until right now, and my child just brought this up, and now I'm like going back to 7-year-old self where that made me feel this way. And it could be something completely different situation of what your kid's dealing with, but it
looks like
still invokes this feeling of like, oh wow, I still feel that same way that I felt when I was a kid. And I don't even remember the situation, but I just remember this feeling I had.
So really it's the kid in you who's feeling this.
Yeah.
Physically the kid's gone, but emotionally, energetically, it's still there.
Yeah.
So then your kid, or that moment, your child, is really the one to get you back to this inner child inside of you that you had forgotten and left. I always tell people that whoever you're in a relationship with, they are the ones who are mirroring the most unhealed parts of your childhood.
How?
So like, if we're in a relationship, you can say something and he can say the same thing, but it won't
sure.
It won't hit like how when you say it,
Right.
because you are the reflection of the most unhealed parts of me that are in. So like, if you look at arguments or fights or anything that happens in a relationship, it's never the actual argument in present day. That is triggering a part of you that is unhealed. But because of our unconsciousness, we don't realize that it's taking us back to a place in our wounded child, and we look at just the situation that's going on right now. So like, I have this thing where it's like, don't raise your voice at me. Don't talk to me in a certain way. And I'm like, why? Well, it comes back to when I was a kid. And mom and dad would raise their voice and feeling like I was unworthy or feeling like I was shameful. So this child is inside feeling this, and then the ego's like, no. Like the ego's trying to protect, like we're not going to touch that. Because if we touch that, we might heal it. And if we heal it, now the ego doesn't have an identity to hold on to anymore.
Right. Yeah.
So, some tells me you're not going to really want to talk about this too much.
Yeah, I'm talking. I totally get that. I don't feel like, me personally, and I don't know if it's my role with the kids versus my role with you, but I feel like they bring up more than you do. Like you said, raising your voice. There's not really anything I can think of right now. Now I'll probably leave here and there'll probably be 4 things I think of. Okay, what? What?
Okay.
Okay, what?
Let me think about it. There's some things, let me think.
that you do to me that makes you think?
That takes you back to your childhood. I don't know if there's things that are necessarily done to you. Maybe I may say something to the kids, or maybe I'll do something, and then that triggers
Right.
something inside of you that takes you back to your childhood.
Yeah.
And then you'll do something that will trigger me and take me back to our childhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
The ego, 99.9% will look at, I can't believe she just did that. I can't believe he just did. But no, it was to get you to this wound so you could heal it, fix it, and grow and learn. And then once you do that, now when this happens again, it won't be a big deal.
Yeah.
Or it won't even happen.
Right. Well, and it took us a long time to figure that out. Probably Hudson's 11, probably 9 years to figure out, like, oh, okay. Because before it was like, I really have an issue with how you did that, but we never really communicated. If you would have a problem with how I parented, or I would have a problem with how you parented, it was like kind of like a blow up for a second, but we never actually worked through it. So it would keep coming up over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Versus now we're like, here's why I feel like this is a problem for me.
Yeah.
And then we talk through it and we hear each other. And then hopefully with each conversation, we're becoming better parents for our kids.
Becoming more aware of ourselves. So like you bring up things in me that I didn't know were down there below the surface. So now when there's a disagreement, or if there's an argument, or if there's anything, when you have that awareness that it can't be the other person, they're just pulling up out of you that you weren't aware of, you now look at that person as like from a place of gratitude. Like, I'm grateful for you to pull this out of me because I didn't know this was even there.
Yeah.
At least that's how I view you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, kids though, kids can take you down to the places that you didn't even know were.
Yeah.
Kids can get you there quick. They take you down on like that like a torpedo straight
Yeah.
down to the depths of your childhood.
But I think about that. I agree. But a lot of times, how often are we just having like not the best day? And our kids really have nothing to do with that
Never do.
quote unquote bad day.
Yeah.
But then we end up projecting our bad day onto our kids. Now they're going to have a bad day because they feel our energetic, like.
Is it ever really the thing though? Like, is it ever really the day? It can't be the day. You know what I mean? Like, the day isn't anything. It's our perception of it.
Right.
But our perception is shaped and molded by our past. So really, like, this situation is happening to show you have a faulty perception based on what happened back there.
Right.
If we fix that, that'll clean up the way we're perceiving everything, which will clean up today. Right? So really, we're taking it out on the kids, or we're getting upset with the kids. But it could not have been the situation, because there had to have been a seer of the situation. And I feel like this is what kids do. This is what relationships do, to show you the stuff that's mucked up your perception of yourself,
Right.
relationships,
Yeah. Expectations.
expectations. Think about how you viewed marriage as a child,
Yeah.
or how you viewed relationships as a child, versus how you view relationships now that you're actually living in a marriage. You're actually experiencing it.
Right.
Your perspective
Yeah.
of marriage was what you saw with your parents.
Right. And their perspective of marriage was what they saw with theirs, and with theirs, and with theirs. It's
So
times have changed so much, roles have changed so much, parenting has changed so much.
I don't believe that there's ever there's like a template for marriage. There's like a template for raising children, parenting.
No.
Like you look at us with our kids. Like I don't parent our kids the same way my parents parented me, and for the longest I did. Like I thought like I was supposed to do exactly what they did, but then I realized no, energy is like supposed to evolve and change, and it's like here you are raising a kid in the 2000, 2010, 2011. based off the energy of 1980s.
Right. Imagine like watching VHS tapes when like you have Netflix and you have on demand and you have like, you're not gonna go get a VHS. You're not gonna go buy a VCR. You're not gonna like sit there and rewind it and like, no, you're gonna flip on the TV and the new Barbie movie's already on it. Like,
really
you're not
like
gonna
that Barbie
wait
movie.
6 months for a movie to come out. Like, you can watch it right now.
So really,
Like, you evolve. People evolve. And if you're not evolving, if you're not growing, your family will suffer.
so
Because everybody else around is.
So you're not supposed to, like, I always look at it like, I'm supposed to, I don't have to raise the kids exactly the way I was raised, but maybe there's things that like, oh wow, like, no, that's still relevant, that's still needed. Like, you take
Yeah.
what you need, but like understanding that you're going to, like, there is no rule book, there is no like handbook for parenting. Like,
No.
you have to find what works for you in your family, in your circumstance, in your situation.
Yeah.
And the same goes for relationships as well. Like, our marriage does not look like our parents' marriage.
No, and also kids, that's not fair to kids either. Because essentially as an adult, you're raising your little self, but that's not like, Ruby's not me, Hudson's not you.
Right.
They're actually Hudson and Ruby, and they're different. They're not like,
Yeah.
it's selfish for me to raise them the way I think, now there's, obviously I'm an adult, they're children, you're an adult, but so there's certain things they can't do. They don't understand they can't do it.
Right.
Like, no, you can't have a bag of Sour Patch Kids right before you go to bed and not brush your teeth. And,
Right.
so there's things that just basic things you have to do as a parent. But there's also, like, I felt like I needed to always pick Ruby's clothes out. That she needed to wear exactly what I told her to wear, and she needs to wear her hair exactly how she needs to
I
wear
used to
it.
be like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Let
And
this girl-"
she would fight me on that. Like,
I used
I
to
don't
watch
want to
it.
wear that. I want to wear what I want to wear. Don't put my hair up. I want my hair down. Like,
And I'm sitting here watching, so I can say this now that we talk about it. I used to be sitting here like, why are y'all really arguing about what she's going to wear? Why
I
don't you
know,
just
but
let
to
her
me
wear
that
it?
was like
So why though?
because that's what my mom and I did
So you weren't allowed to pick out your own clothes?
up until like probably like fourth grade,
grade,
and she would say that too.
Wow. So
Like she picked out like
so why was she doing that, you think?
because she loved like getting like dressing me and like having me in these cute outfits and
So when you realized this with Ruby, like, did you like back off?
I did, because here's what happened. I remember, I'll never forget exactly where I was when it happened. I was still working at the time, full time. So there was, and then I got to be home and get her ready.
Yeah.
Where usually it would be you, because it was like for tumbling or something, and I happened to have the day off. So I got to get her ready and I got to do her hair. And I remember just being like, yay! And it was all about me, it wasn't about her.
Yeah. Right.
And at the time I didn't know that, but I've looked back on it many times since then. This was probably 3 years ago. And I was getting her ready and I was putting her hair up. Now she's going to tumbling where like her hair is going to be flying all over the place. Like, it doesn't matter what she looks like as long as she's comfortable and she's having fun.
Right.
And I was putting her hair up and I can remember her like almost near tears. Like, I don't want you to do my hair like that. That's too tight. And I'm looking at it like, well, all the other moms are gonna think that I don't have my stuff together if I don't get your hair up and make you look perfect, and we have all these clothes for you, and why don't you wanna wear them, and we buy them for you. And she wants to wear a pair of sweats and an old raggedy t-shirt.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, no, I will not let you.
Yeah.
Because it was about me and what other people are gonna think of me as a mom, not about her.
So it's really
She's a little girl.
So it's really the child in you
Yes.
that was like living out this paradigm that had been projected onto the child in you.
Yeah. So I did her hair and it was up super tight. And I thought, okay, well, like, we're going, not thinking anything at the time about it. Like, we got there and I'm sitting here watching her. She's having so much fun. Of course, her hair's falling out all over the place because that's what it does when you tumble. Like, who cares what your hair looks like? And I heard this mom sitting next to me, because there's like this window that you can watch
Yeah.
all the kids tumbling and stuff, and they're all in different classes and they're all having fun. And I noticed this little girl's out there. It's probably 20 minutes in and her hair's wild, and I hear the mom saying, as it should be, because hello, they're in tumbling, who freaking cares? I hear this mom say, oh, her dad brought her today. Look at her hair. I cannot believe he did not do her hair. Like going on and on and on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so silly. Like, and then I could see the little girl. She could tell her mom was mad, and she kept looking back at her mom. And she went from having the time of her life to like visibly look stressed because she could tell her mom was like frustrated with her. And it was like, had nothing to do with her level of exertion that she was putting towards tumbling and gymnastics and the things that she was doing. It was just about her hair. And it was like so convicting for me in that moment. Like, that was me. That was me, like literally 45 minutes ago.
So you got to see the reflection of you.
Yes. And like for me to just happen to be off that day, to be able to go and watch her.
What a coincidence.
Right.
No, this is...
Right. And I'm like, ever since then, I've never done that.
So now you let Ruby wear...
I let her wear what she wants, and I would lie if I said it's not painful. She has to brush her hair. Like, we got to brush her hair. We got to put some product in your hair. We got to brush your hair. But there's certain days where, like, she's playing, like, no, fine, go play. Wear what you want.
So she really helped you to get back to this child inside of you. Did you heal that child, though, inside of you? Did you reconcile?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really, Ruby was your teacher.
Yeah.
So thank you, Ruby, for helping me to become more self-aware.
Yeah.
This is I realized that our kids, specifically, because I'm a male, like with Hudson really, so he's 11, he's the 11-year-old me. So he, like, anything that triggers me, it's because of the 11-year-old me that I'm unaware of.
Right. It's not because of independent Hudson.
It's never that.
Right.
He is the thing to get me back to this 11-year-old that the ego's trying to protect.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is why, like, raising kids was so powerful. Literally, the universe gave a mechanism, a tool to help us get back to the wounds inside of us, and it's called children. So, like, I look at the kids, specifically Hudson, because Ruby, I just wasn't a girl, but like I study and watch my internal perceptions when I'm dealing with. Like, why are you like looking at him right now? Like, why are you judging like the way he's wearing his socks? Oh, that's because you remember when you were a kid and your dad would have said something to you. So we need to go back and make things right with that little boy, and then you will be okay. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and this is all kids are. They are literally our greatest teachers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And letting them just be. I think all kids really want is just to be little, just to be a kid.
Sure.
Like, and I will say, my parents allowed me to do that. They really encouraged me. I thought I could literally do anything as a child, and I didn't know how special that was, how unique that was until I got older, and I started to become jaded by the world. I talked to friends whose parents weren't encouraging them as children. And I can remember thinking, like, wow, that's, like, I need to go back to that. I need to go back to that. But I didn't have parents who put limits on me. Like, if anything, it was the other end. Like, oh my gosh, you can become a Grammy-nominated artist, Carly. I have the worst voice in the world.
Your voice isn't that bad.
Okay, well, but my point is, I'm good at things, but they made me believe I was great at things. Like,
and that's what you have to do as a parent. Like,
yes.
You have
and when I hear other parents, because I've heard other parents in front of their kids, like, oh, well, he's not an NBA star. Why not?
Yeah.
Why isn't he an NBA star? Can you imagine if LeBron James heard that, or Steph Curry? There's NBA stars. So what if all their parents told them they're not going to be an NBA star? Maybe they did. I don't know. Maybe they're mad at their parents for it. I don't know. But
you can't.
To me, that's one of the worst things you can do for a child. Because if you say that to an adult, can you imagine what an adult would say? Like, you'll never be CEO. What?
Right.
What a jerk. I'm never talking to you again. But a child, it's like it's okay to say that to a kid.
A child,
Why?
Because of the way subconscious works, it has to believe it.
Right.
I never forget. I think I've told you a story when we got back from Florida, and I'm like, I want to be a public speaker, and I'm doing all this stuff, and this opportunity pops in my lap to go and speak for this. It was YPO, right? Young Professionals Organization. You had a net worth of like minimum like $5 million. You had to be under the age of 35. Like, there's all these criteria, right? So it's like the small, like, closed fraternity essentially, and I get to go speak in it. And I'm like, I'm gonna go down there and speak. I'm gonna go in and talk about my story and talk about what's happened and how mindset. Well, little did I know, I actually went down there and spoke. You know, I wasn't the keynote speaker, but I was right before the keynote speaker, and my speech was literally the same exact thing. So they were like furious, right? But anyway, the guy who went before me was like some South African psychologist. I don't know what his name was, but he was talking. It was just really dry, like good information, delivery. I don't know. I didn't like it, right?
Right. Maybe other people did.
Maybe other people did, yeah. I'm gonna hold on to my perception of it.
Okay.
But he's talking, and I'm like half asleep, like, oh my gosh, like, come on. There was one thing I heard, and because of my level of awareness, I didn't receive it in the way that I was supposed to, but my subconscious held on to it. All I heard him say was, I never tell my kids no. I never tell them no, they can't do something. Because of my three-dimensional mind at the time, I looked at it like, you let your kids do whatever they want. You never tell them no. And I'm like, this motherfucker, he's crazy. I'm quick to tell my kids no. But what he was saying is I never tell my kids they can't do something that they don't have the ability to do it. He was saying, like, never tell your kids, oh, you can't do that. There's no way. Nobody in our family's ever done it. Nobody. That's what he meant. And I remembered that. And then when I went on this journey of understanding the mind and the subconscious and the conscious, how everything worked within a child, like, you have to tell your kids they can do anything. I remember when Hudson was in the car, we were driving, I was going like 45. He was like, Dad, I bet I can run faster than the car. At that moment, it was like a crossroads. Like, I can tell him, no, you can't do it. And I could see his whole life. He's like this, shaking and asking people for change. Or I can tell him, yes, you can do it.
Yeah.
And he's like, ah!
Yeah.
And I'm like, you think so? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I bet you could if you wanted to. I had to affirm him in that moment because I knew if I told him no, he was always going to remember, Dad said I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And that's the voice that will play when he's 35, 40 years old
Yep.
I can't do it, because that's the voice that's playing in my head right now.
Yeah.
My mom used to always tell me when I was little, she used to point right here and be like, it only matters what you think in here. I remember I was little when she used to say that.
Yeah.
So now, that's what I tell myself. It doesn't matter what anybody else, it only matters what you think here. So you'll always fall back to what that voice is of your parents and encouraging your kids. I always say, when we went on the Tulum retreat,
Yeah.
I was by myself and I had like this healing session, and it was like these beings, like these guides, ancestors, whoever, like they were telling me, everything that you needed as a child, give it to your son, emotionally. Like whatever you needed to hear, you need to give that to your child, because here's what's going to happen. One, you're helping the child, but then two, you're actually giving it to yourself when you were younger, because the child was really just you
Yep.
at that age. So
Yeah.
the inner child it's still there.
Yeah.
And it shows itself through our marriage and through
Yep.
parenting.
Yeah. And I think society puts these like boxes around us of like what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, and oh, you don't want your kids to like not brag. There's a difference between bragging and believing in yourself, being confident, or bragging in a way that like, even as adults, like, I'm so insecure, I need to like talk about all these things to make myself feel better. But then there's a level of confidence that I think is important for kids to have. But I remember when you were a kid, and the story you tell about, you told your neighbor that
Yeah.
you scored 3 goals and you were the best player, and your dad was like, don't tell people that. But that was very normal then. Like it still is to this day. And fast forward,
I remember like being like 36.
but I remember that story and how like you'd go back to it a lot, even before you were on this like path to discovering yourself. It's still something you talked about. And then I'll never forget, because of that story, Ruby was telling someone at the gym one day, we were at Hudson's basketball practice. She had just started playing on a little basketball team. And this guy was asking her, hey, Ruby, how's basketball going? She's like, it's going great. I'm the best. And I was like, and at first I wanted, because I know this guy and he's friends of ours. And I care what he thinks. At the time, I cared like, oh, he's going to think like my kids. But Ruby she was 5 and she was coming from a place of like, I love it and I think I'm the best.
Yeah.
And why would and initially I was going to be like, now Ruby.
Like,
but
no.
I was like, no, because you shared that with me. That matters to her. And if I don't agree with it, it's almost like.
Keep it to yourself.
Like.
Don't.
No, I was like, yep.
You got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
and I could tell like my validation, she was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
This is good. You know, where I could have been like, now Ruby, now, okay, there's a lot of good girls on the team.
No, like, no.
You know what? And honestly, like, she probably wasn't. But at that moment, she needed to hear that she was the best. And she's 5. And I needed to let her be little in that moment and say, like, give her that validation of, like, yeah.
You needed to create a subconscious imprint that would go with her for life of her thinking that she was the best. Because if you told her that she was not, that would create an energetic imprint in her subconscious. And then she'd be 35 years old and play second fiddle to somebody, even though she had the ability to, hello, this was me.
Yeah.
I knew I could get 50, but I'll get you 20 because I don't think I'm the best because like that's not what we do. We don't. And I see this with athletes. I had a conversation with an athlete and I'm like, why are you not killing? You're the most athletic one in here. You're the most skilled. What is going on? And he opened up and he was always compared to this other player growing up.
Yeah.
And this guy was always better and the other guy was always second fiddle. So guess what? Even though he's past this guy in potential, he won't do it because up here it's saying, no, we're not. We're. So this is where like with a child, you got to think get a child to make it think it's Superman. Before the world tells it what it is.
Yeah.
Before the world puts the restraints and the limits on its mind. And what's one thing I've learned in my childhood, like now with our kids, I'm gonna tell them like, no, you're like for real, like you're him, you're her, you are.
Yeah.
You are. And
I think the more that parents do that, the more confident, the more encouraging, the more inspired, the more well-rounded kids will be.
Sure.
And I think it goes against, like, there's a lot of, like,
That's
that goes
the old
against.
paradigm.
Well, I remember just this past year in cheerleading, competitive cheerleading, it's a whole world on its
Don't
own.
get me
If you
started
don't know
on
about
that.
it.
That's a whole episode in and of itself.
But Ruby loves it. And
She
I
loves
love
it.
that she loves it. It's so much fun watching her. But we're getting ready for a competition, and all the moms are like saying bye to the girls. It's like a whole thing. And I hear one of the moms tell her little girl, like she grabbed her by the arms, she's 8, she's like, you're the star. And I can remember thinking, like, who says that? But I'm like, then I thought about it, and I like judged myself in that moment for judging her. And I'm like, yeah, she is.
Everybody's
She
a
believes
star.
she is. Like, she is telling her daughter, giving her the confidence she needs before she steps out on this mat in front of all these people and these bright lights, being these judges behind them. It's actually, like, as a little girl, I'm sure, extremely intimidating. But her mom is building her up and setting her up to a place of confidence before she goes out and for 3 minutes and does this routine that was actually really challenging. And I'm like, she is a star. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, she is a star. She's giving her the advice, the exact advice she needs in that moment.
Yeah.
But if other people hear that, like I did, I'm like,
You think that's being like cocky or arrogant? Or-
yes.
Here's what cocky and arrogance really is, truly. You ready? If I say I'm the man, you'd say that's cocky and arrogant. But it's because you don't think that you're the man. And you're projecting your insecurities onto me.
Right.
You were always supposed to be your biggest cheerleader. You were always supposed to be the loudest voice cheering for you in your own life. Like, that's wild to think that we've been programmed to think that that's wrong, that's bad. Like, I'm gonna be whatever I think I am. Why would I not think I'm something more than what I am? How am I gonna be it?
Right.
Teach these kids. How did Whitney Houston say it?
Teach them.
Teach them right and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride. to make it easier.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot
Let the
words.
children laugh.
Laughter.
I'm not gonna sing it.
It's out of you. I decided long ago never to
go
walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed,
At least.
at least I believe no matter what they take from me,
Yeah.
they can't take away my dignity.
Mm-hmm.
Because the greatest love of all is happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
The greatest love you can give a child is to teach a child how to love themselves.
Yes. 100%.
What a way to end it.
Yeah.
Let that music play out too. Let it play out. Let it play out. I can just already see it.
Yeah.
Teach a
I want
child.
to heal the world.
Heal the world. You have to teach it, but you have to heal yourself.
Yes.
You got to heal your child
Yeah.
inside of you so you can give the child what you never had, and then the child will know how to love itself. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
There it is again. It always goes back to you
Yeah.
and your inner child. You got to do the work.
Yep.
Thank you for doing the work.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for doing the work. And thank you for joining us for another episode of Not For Granted. We appreciate you. We love you. And we do not take this for granted. See you all.